Hey everyone, so I'm back with another review of the Rebellion Acro, one of 3 to be released by Rebellion, powered by Yo-Yo Recreation. Along with the Butcher and the Goliath, the Acro is designed by one of Yo-Yo Recreation's past models, such as the Acrophobia. So I'll be going over 5 different sections of the review: the history, construction, trick handling, playability, and as well as my own opinions to round everything off. So I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so now to start everything off with the first section of the review, the history section. Okay, as some of you might or might not know, the Acro is based off of the Acrophobia by Yo-Yo Recreation. The Acrophobia is the signature model of 2007 to 2010 North Japan champion Kentaro Manin. The shape and the specs are very similar to the Acrophobia, while the Acro actually takes off from the Acrophobia in certain areas that I'll explain later on in the construction section. So now moving on to the construction section of the review. So as you can see, the Acro is constructed of 6061 aluminum, and you could sort of think of this as the 6061 version of the Acrophobia, which is consisted of 7075 aluminum. Okay, so now starting off with the specs. The diameter is 55.2 millimeters. The width is 45.17 millimeters. The gap width is 4.5 millimeters. The weight is 67 grams. It comes stock with 19 millimeter response pads. So they're just the regular silicone K pads that you can find in Yo-Yo Factory, Turning Point, and it's overall just a standard response that they come with. And it comes with a Diffio concave bearing. Shape bears extreme resemblance to the Acrophobia. So basically the shape is almost exactly the same, except the steps right here are rounded off, and on the Acrophobia it's more sharper. So in the hub area it has sort of like a step sort of design to it, where it kind of comes right here and steps straight down into the hub area, and has a nipple right here. And it's a very simple engravings where it says Acro and the Rebellion signature flag, if you want to call it. It's the same thing for the other side as well. So very minimalistic sort of engravings to keep a minimalistic design and overall play. Okay, so to now compare the different specs with the Acro and the Acrophobia is that with the diameter on the Acro is 55.52 millimeters, as I stated, but the diameter on the Acrophobia, however, is 54 millimeters. So pretty much from the Acrophobia and the Acro, it's pretty much a 1.52 gram increase in diameter from the Acrophobia and the Acro. And then with the width on the Acro is 45.17 millimeters, and on the Acrophobia it's only 45 millimeters, so a very small increase in width, which is just basically 0.17 millimeters. However, there is a huge difference between the gap width of the Acro and Acrophobia. On the Acro, the gap width is 4.5 millimeters, while the gap width on the Acrophobia is 4.2 millimeters. So it's a bigger overall gap width to allow more string to slide through it, and less grippy response and a more sliding feeling through speed type tricks. So a little bit of difference between weight. The weight on the Acrophobia, as I stated, is 67 grams, and the weight on the Acrophobia is 66 grams. So it's just about a gram heavier, it's more spread out on the Acro than it is on the Acrophobia, so it overall feels just about the same. I've never played the Acrophobia, but I assume that it would feel similar to the Acro. Just comparing a few yo-yos to the Acro. So here's a Shuta. They're just about, actually no, I'd say that the Shuta is just about the same in terms of widths and diameters, but the width is a lot wider than the Shuta. Here's a first base, just to compare the two with. Here's a Big Dipper. Here's a Pulse Fire. So again, the diameters are just about the same, but there's a huge difference in widths and also as weight. Okay, so here's what the Acro looks like when spinning. As you can see, it has a very stable and strong spin to it. And yeah, moving on to the trick handling section of the review. So I'll go over a couple of subsections such as speed, tech, horizontals, and grinds, just to give an overall feeling or description of how the yo-yo handles each and every category of tricks. For speed, despite the Acro being on the heavier side, it actually has a pretty light and nimble feeling of the string, meaning that you can go through any sort of speed combos, front speed combos, or anything else that you want to do. Now, in terms of tech, because of the light feeling on the string, combined with the maneuverability and the sort of slight agility of the Acro, it can pretty much go through any sort of intricate string tricks that you might could come up with, anything unique or anything that you might want to do. Now moving on to grinds. Because my version is a polished version, it doesn't really do grinds that well. But I would suppose that a blasted version of the Acro would be much better for grinds due to how the shape can sort of cradle your finger for finger grinds. It has a really nice IGR for thumb grinds, but it's actually pretty decent for finger spins, despite there being a nipple right here in the middle of the hub area. But overall, I would say grinds would be pretty nice with the Acro, if you have a blasted version. Alright, so now moving on to horizontals. The Acro can pull off any sort of horizontals that you can do. Because of its light feeling and its nimble play nature, it can really hold its plane in horizontals, and it can really glide through a lot of horizontal tricks that you can come up with, whether they be technical or simple, fast or intricate, It can pretty much keep its plane, and also because of the large rims, it has a large amount of rim weight and a lot of stability, so that also helps and aids in horizontals as well. Alright, so now moving on to the playability section of the review. Now this section, I would say, is sort of one of the most difficult ones because it's sort of where I part away from my opinions and how I think the yo-yo plays, because again, my experience isn't always the same as your experience when you try the same yo-yo, so try to keep that in mind. So pretty much the Acro is one of those all-around type of yo-yos that can be catered to any sort of style that you might have, whether you're more of a speedy or techy player, whether you like to do a lot of horizontals or grinds, it can pretty much handle all skill levels. Acro reminds me a lot of the Yo-Yo Factory Shutter, not in terms of specs or anything like that, but in terms of its versatility. The Shutter is very versatile in what it can do, and I feel that the Acro is the same way. And I also feel that a lot of Rebellion yo-yos also have this sense of versatility, meaning that it isn't specifically catered to any one sort of style, much like how a lot of yo-yo recreations yo-yos are, such as a Dropper, Valkyrie, Dazzler, or whatever it may be. I feel that Rebellion is doing a really great job in terms of catering their yo-yos to every sort of style that there is, so that it's more widely appreciated by a lot of people. So I guess to sum up the play characteristics that the Acro has, it's very nimble. It sort of has a bouncy, sort of light feeling to it. Despite it being 67 grams, it's very light feeling, I would say. Because of the weight distribution and the way that it's overall shaped and designed, the weight is more spread out instead of more centered. So meaning that despite the weight being a lot, it can actually hold its own against a lot of speed tricks, and it feels overall pretty light because of the weight distribution. The Acro can pretty much adapt to any sort of style. Again, like I said, whether you're into speed or more tech oriented. And the Acro has a overall nice and great feeling to it, in my opinion, of course. And it's pretty much a yo-yo that can be used whether for recreational or competition play. Moving on to the last section, my personal opinion section of the review. So as I stated in the last review, the playability, these will all be my own opinions on how I think the Acro plays and everything else. So I would say that the Acro is one of those fun sort of yo-yos that you would play with. It's one of those yo-yos where you could just pick up, you could chill, you could just hang out and just throw with it. I wouldn't really see it as much of a competition throw. It's more of a fun yo-yo, to me at least. This yo-yo is more than capable enough of competition play that the Acro and Rebellion as a whole has a really good marketing strategy as into how they present this yo-yos to newer players. And it's overall, a really great marketed yo-yo. And because of its price, it's only $50.99. You know, depending on where you shop from, I got this from Yo-Yo Experts, so you know, it's $50 there, and it's a really great price for a yo-yo that has this much performance and this much fun in it as well. The Acrophobia was well over $100, and it was more of a competition sort of yo-yo because, you know, a lot of Yo-Yo Recreation's past models were mostly meant for competition, and a lot of them were meant for like you know, their signature players and whatnot. I'd say that the Acro has a lot to give in terms of its price, its feel, performance, and everything that it has to offer. And one other thing is that I was really surprised by its durability. I don't know if you can see, but you probably can't see, but there's like a ding right here and dings all around the rims of the yo-yo. I sort of dinged up this yo-yo a lot when just taking it with me out and about, and you know, banging it against different sort of things. But the Acro pretty much held its own against all of that pressure and damage that I was putting it through. It managed to stay completely dead smooth, which I was really surprised about. Even when I'm taking apart the yo-yo multiple times to get knots out, or I don't really do that often, but you know, to get knots out, to you know, maybe replace the bearing or whatever, I've taken apart a couple of times and it's managed to stay smooth no matter how I place the axle or the bearing or how I restore it back together. It managed to stay, you know, dead smooth, and it managed to play pretty much the exact same way as I got it the first day. That's a plus for a lot of people, because a lot of people can be really conscious about how they treat their yo-yos, whether you ding it might have vibe, or whether you mistreat it, you know, it can have vibe again. So I think that the Acro and Rebellion's company as a whole has a really reputable, you know, statement behind them. But, you know, that kind of just depends on your yo-yo and how you treat it and everything, so of course. Alright everyone, so I hope you enjoyed the review. I tried to make it as detailed and as enjoyable as possible, as I say in every single review. So I hope that you found this review enjoyable. The Acro overall is a really great yo-yo, and I really enjoyed playing with it. It's another one of those budget models that are like really great for competition or recreational play, as you might say, and you know, it's overall just a really great playing yo-yo. I recommend this to pretty much everybody, you know, whether you're first starting out into the yo-yo community and you might want to buy something that's a little more high-end but that's not, you know, costs a lot. I would recommend the Acro or a lot of Rebellion's yo-yos. And whether you're like a advanced player just looking for a fun sort of yo-yo to play with, but you again don't want to spend a lot of money, the Acro is also recommended for that as well. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my review. I have a couple other reviews coming up, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, so again, like, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.